Hi there, Karen Love Lee here, The Power of Self-Evolution. So exciting, part 2 with Dr. David Gruder, PhD. We are in a series, Evolve Your Money Relationship. Whew, this one's a big one. So that said, we are on part 2. And good morning, David. How are you?
I am just happy as a clam. Thank you, Karen. How are you?
I'm doing great and excited, The anticipation is building. So I'm going to quickly recap. In part 1, we dealt with money myth busting. Wake up from the money spell. And, this is big because this whole, what you call money shadow freedom is all about, correct me if I'm wrong here, is all about looking for the blocks that are in shadow that are stopping us, blocking us, prolonging the ability to, as you say, turn our wealth into money. And your soundbite, and I made it into a hashtag, is wealth creates money. So quickly speak into that. Did I get that correct? And say more if need be.
Yes, you absolutely got that correct. One of the myths that I myself was locked into for a very long time was the story that says money is what creates wealth. And what that does, that belief does, is that it creates a huge amount of impossible pressure on us as people to try to make money do for us what money isn't designed to do. And whenever any of us feels pressure, it leads to pressure beyond a certain point. It leads to not helpful stress, but to distress. And when we're distressed, we're not able to function optimally. So what was a really important shift among many others in my relationship with money was finally recognizing that I had that equation backwards, that it's wealth that creates money. Each of us has what I refer to as multidimensional wealth, M-dimensional wealth, relationship wealth, health wealth, spiritual wealth, wealth in terms of our experience and our training and our expertise, and et cetera, multi-dimensional wealth. And what money really is from the perspective of wealth is simply portions of our multidimensional wealth that we have chosen to use to convert into the form of money.
Okay, I love that. And one of my biggest myths personally was money doesn't, first of all, money was nothing. And then if it was something, it did not bring me happiness. That was a big one for me. Big myth. And then seeing and living in the experience of my parents self-made, making more and more and more money. And it got worse over time.
That's a really good point, because that's another myth. Wealth or money creates happiness. And in fact, what's really true energetically is happiness magnetizes money.
Exactly. Right? Finally figured that one out. Now it's just my sustaining the happiness and not getting triggered back into all the unhappiness and money. Right, that's the key that we're going to get into down the line here. I want to jump right to that for myself, but let's stay on track. I want the answers, doctor. I want the answers, So that's a big thing, and we see it all the time. Just using, the only reason I use high-profile people or celebrities or professional athletes is that because we don't have people in common, we can use them as examples, but you think, why are these brilliant actors committing suicide when they have everything? Fame, fortune, the works, the movie roles. And then you think, what is going on? That's all based on their myths as well. But I so relate to that as it got worse and worse for me and my parents, no matter what they did, no matter, we joined the country club, and then I did the debutante thing, came out at the Waldorf, and yet my father had the mistress on the side, and my mother was, caught him, and, it almost is directly correlated. The more money they made, the more crazier it got, if that makes any sense. And so that's what I grew up with, and that continued to feed into the myth. And so a lot of people can relate to that. And also, this is exactly what you're talking about. I mean, this is all the stuff that's in shadow. Can you connect that now? So then if it's in shadow, it's going to impede upon our wealth, quote unquote wealth. And then if it impedes upon our wealth and we can't even see it, or we don't know what's even going on, then inevitably we cannot then create the money. Is that correct? Do I have that?
That's exactly right. In the example you were just giving, when someone carries a storyline, a belief that says money makes people crazy, why would we want money?
Right.
The risk of having money is too high. So that's a money repeller rather than a money magnetizer.
Exactly. And that has been the story of my life, yet I have made lots and lots of money over time, but I get to the plateau, and then I can't break through the next level, and it's a good number, more than most people, but it's not the number that I'm striving for, so it's still in play. So that's really interesting. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that you're raising something really important as well about the money thermostat that each of us has. And so at some point we should really map out what that means, what a money thermostat is.
Okay, so why not now? Or
okay.
Yeah.
Now is a good time.
Isn't that all we have? Oh wow. Yeah.
So the all of us are set at a certain amount of money that is comfortable according to our programming. And when we have more than that, then the thermostat kicks in and makes sure that we shed the extra money so that we're back to the amount of money that our thermostat is set at. And when we're not making as much money as the thermostat is set at, then seemingly magically sometimes even, money just appears. It comes in more or less seemingly effortlessly. So the metaphor of a money thermostat is that with a thermostat that regulates the temperature in a house or in a building or in an office, it's we, human beings, that determine what the temperature setting is going to be. We're the ones that are responsible for setting that setting. And then when the thermostat is operating properly, if the temperature gets higher than that setting, the air conditioning comes on. When the temperature gets lower than that setting, the heat comes on. Well, we have the exact same kind of mechanism psychologically around money. Our programming is, we either set our thermostat for money by design, which means that we have cleared away enough of our money shadow issues so that we can set our thermostat in alignment with our intentions, or our money thermostat gets set by default, which is where it's set on the basis of what our money script is, our money shadow programming happens to be. And regardless of how that thermostat gets set, whether it gets set by design because we've cleared enough of that baggage away so we really can succeed at doing that, or if it's our baggage that's setting our money thermostat level or setting, whenever we make more than that, we get scared. We get into a self-sabotage mode. When we make less money than that, then something kicks in inside us, and somehow we rise back up to whatever our money thermostat setting is. So the biggest challenge is the challenge where we want to set our money thermostat at a higher level than the programming we still carry, the shadow issues around money we still carry, give us permission to actually succeed at doing.
Ooh. Okay, so let's talk about quickly that the part where the shadow, or can we say the subconscious or unconscious scripts, in other words, they're not in our conscious awareness. You know, all this time I didn't know, money equals unhappiness and a lack of freedom and joy. I didn't consciously know that. I just kept functioning and get to a certain amount of money, and it kind of just went in and out and in and out, and it was there. And it actually was not a problem. But when we're saying in shadow, we're talking about these scripts that are there, but we don't know that they're there. Correct?
Correct. That's the definition of shadow, is that it's hidden from us.
Yes. That's, I believe, vitally important to emphasize, is that we don't know that it's there. And a lot of people, I believe, think they know what it is, and yet objective reality says otherwise. Complete opposite. But they'll...
Well, it's two...
Yeah, go ahead.
That's great.
Yeah.
But there are two things about that. One is that we don't know what we don't know. And that's the way that we bust through that is by being exposed to the kinds of conversations that you and I are having, where we're exposed to the kinds of limiting beliefs around money that other people have had to deal with. And it's through that exposure that we get to say, oh, yeah, no, I didn't really get that piece of programming. But boy, oh, boy, that programming, I recognize that it's in me now that I've heard it from outside of me.
Yes.
So that's one piece. The other piece is the New Age trap, where I confuse what I want to believe about money with what my system registers as true about money.
Ooh, that's wow. Say that again in a different way.
You bet.
Yeah.
So there are times when I'm aware that I aspire to, or I want to believe or attract something new, something better, something different. And if I am only focused on the things like the law of attraction, or New Age thought, those kinds of things. If I'm only focused on that, then I am going to believe that all I have to do is just keep reaffirming, and that's just going to come to me. Well, the sad truth, the truth that a lot of people find it really hard to face, is that if that doesn't happen, if I don't end up magnetizing that, then it simply means that I'm carrying programming inside me that is undermining the effectiveness of that intention. So let me use an analogy. Let's imagine two rocket ships on a launch pad, and one rocket ship is blue, and the other rocket ship is yellow. And the blue rocket ship is our aspirations. It's our higher intentions. It's where we want to head. And the yellow rocket ship is the limiting beliefs, the money shadow in the case of money, whatever shadow programming there is that is either outside of our awareness or it's inside our awareness, but we think that the blue rocket ship of aspiration and good intentions is enough to undo the effects of the yellow rocket ship. And as soon as we hold an intention inside ourselves, what happens is we launch both of those rocket ships, the blue rocket ship and the yellow rocket ship, into our future. So these are time-traveling rocket ships. And so then we land in our future, and our future is neither blue nor yellow, it's green. and we say to ourselves, what happened? I launched blue. Why is my future not blue? My future was supposed to be blue. I did all the right things with that blue rocket because we're ignoring the fact that we launched the yellow rocket at the same time, and blue plus yellow creates green.
Yes. Okay, I got to throw in your soundbite that I absolutely adore and is so perfect for this. Just give me a second here. Oh, I wrote it in my notes. Oh, yes, here it is. Tan, tan, tan. Leaders build businesses at the level of their self-development limitations, despite their higher intentions.
Mm-hmm.
The limitations, the what's ever in shadow. These are our limiting beliefs or our limitations that you speak of, correct?
Yep.
Thank you. Woo! No more questions, Your Honor.
I rest my case.
Woo! So yes. So what happened? Now we're in green, and I run across this all the time. Of course, in myself first and foremost, but I hear it from people and my clients, and they're stuck in blue, and it's hard to then look at the yellow. And I love that you said it. It's a hardcore truth. This is based on the law of attraction. It's not enough. We have to acknowledge the yellow and see how the yellow is part of the green, and where it then went blurry or went awry. And that's what you're saying. And that's what we got to do. So part 2, here we go. Money shadow programming, getting free. Woo! Okay. So now let's delve in. Okay, reversed sourcing. What is that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, reverse sourcing we've already touched on, and now we can really bring it all the way home.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really about the notion that money creates wealth, and it's not that at all. Spirit creates wealth, and wealth creates money. So when we have our spiritual sourcing backwards, when we think we need to create money in order to be happy, and once we're validated, happy or validated, and once we're happy and validated, then we're deserving of the love of spirit. We've set up a script that is an impossible one to succeed with because it is faulty at its core. So the reverse sourcing is money creates wealth and happiness, and wealth and happiness creates my worthiness, and my worthiness allows me to feel full love and support and connection with spirit. That's reverse sourcing. Accurate sourcing is spirit creates wealth, and wealth creates money.
Yes. How funny, because that's exactly what I just wrote down here for my notes. And, okay, so that's reverse sourcing, and, you're speaking my language and my parents' language, is they just kept going for the money, and it did complete opposite. And then I followed suit. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And then when money did become right in front of my face, I constantly am on that self-fulfilling prophecy wheel of I need to make lots of money, and then I'll be happy, and then I'll be free, and then I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, da-da-da-da-da. And then knowing my whole life that if I look at it and take a moment and look backwards, connect the dots, looking backwards, what I see was every time I did that, I was never happy. As a matter of fact, I was more unhappy. But it's a blind spot in the moment. a series of blind spots. Right here, I think I get triggered into more money, and then I can, and then I will be, and then it will be great. And then I think, wait a minute, Karen, you have lived that life. You have made lots of money. You have had great successes, and you achieve all your goals and milestones. You reach the milestones. And yet, if I look back, I became more and more unhappy because the very thing I thought would happen was complete opposite. Not only did it not happen, it was now worse than ever because of now it created even more of a gaping hole. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay. Woo! Okay, this is fantastic. So then, do you have a perfect personal example for that you'd like to share in reverse sourcing?
Reverse sourcing. Well, yeah, the reverse sourcing for me was really the spiritual connection. That the programming that I came in with and was completely solidified as though it was reality by the time I was 3 years old was, I am here as punishment.
Ooh.
I am here on this planet as punishment. And what that set into motion was this quest to have to redeem myself, to have to do all kinds of things and turn myself into all kinds of pretzels in order to redeem myself for being here as punishment. I had to somehow do penance by neglecting and abandoning myself and being who other people seem to need me to be, and to hide the light in me that the proportions of the light in me that other people seem to be afraid of, and all of those kinds of things. So the whole notion that I'm here as punishment absolutely translated into meaning that I wasn't really either. I was allowed to make only so much money, or if I made more money than that amount of money, that was okay, and I did. I mean, I have been through periods of time in my life where I've made massive amounts of money, but I'm not allowed to keep the money. I have to either give the money away, or I have to pour all of that money back into the business so that I become slave of the business, and I don't reap the fruits of my labors. Because God forbid I should have, at that time in my life, really enjoyed the fruits of my labors. That wouldn't have matched up very well with my belief that I was here as punishment.
Exactly right. Okay, so at 3 years old, was this something that was based on an experience you went through at 3, or did you just somehow feel it? Because I have both in my childhood. I just knew things.
Well,
yeah, so go ahead.
Yes. How woo-woo do you want me to get?
Go woo-woo, my friend. Go woo-woo. Let's
okay.
Be
well,
you. Be you. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm very fond of saying when I'm doing my keynotes and things like that, and even in my training programs, is that I am not woo-woo. I have one foot firmly planted in woo.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And what I'm about to say is definitely beyond just woo. This is woo-woo. So
good.
The first part is that some people have near-death experiences, and I have not had a near-death experience, but I did come in with a fragment of a memory that's a between-life experience. So I recall just before coming into physical form in this life. And my memory it's symbolic because it happened outside of the physical universe. So, but I can't express it except by imagery and So don't take this in a purely literal way, although energetically it's an accurate representation. So it's as though I am standing in front of the energetic equivalent of a door frame, and I have my energetic equivalent of my hands that are white knuckle wrapped around the sides of the door frame, because I don't want to be pushed through that door frame, because if I'm pushed through that door frame, then I will jump into the physical. And behind me in a semicircle is what I refer to as my spiritual crew, my guides, my angels, my higher self, representations of God, the Holy Spirit, all of that. And I am pleading with them, saying to them, please don't make me go back there. Don't make me go back to earth again. Don't you know how much I love it here, outside of the physical? I will do anything you ask of me to not go back there. You can't, don't make me do anything. I'm pleading with them. And they, in their absolutely unconditionally loving and yet equally firm way, say to me, don't you understand that it's because of how badly you don't want to go back there that you have to go back there, because what your soul needs to learn can't be learned here. Because what your soul needs to learn is that nothing in that world, nothing in the physical universe can either harm you or save you. And with that message, I was energetically thrust through the door frame, despite my white knuckling my hands around each side of the door frame, into the physical. And that translated by age 3 into the storyline that I was here as punishment, because by age 3 I realized that the family that I had selected, that I had been born into, required so much of me that to be the adult, to be the savior, to be the protector, to be the wise one, that I didn't want it. I didn't want the job. I couldn't handle the job, and I basically did an indirect attempt at a childhood suicide when I was 3.
Ooh. Can you just tell me what that was? You don't have to give the whole... Well...
Sure. So I was one of these really happy children, adaptable. So if as a little baby, if someone came into the room, I cooed. If someone left the room, I cooed. I rarely cried unless unless my diaper was wet or things like that.
Right.
But I was just not a crier. I was a happy kid, and this is what I was told, and I have tons of pictures from even before my memory starts, which was at about 8 months old, that show that. And so at 3 years old, my mother gave birth to my brother, and at this point in time, a couple of days after, well, I need to backtrack just a little bit. So, what I didn't learn about the birthing experience my mom had until I was somewhere in my late teens or early 20s, was that back in those days when a child was born, the child was immediately taken away from the mother and taken over to the nursery, and the mother was put in a hospital room, and then sometime after that happened, the infant is brought to the mother in her hospital bed. And so my brother was born. He was whisked off to the nursery. Mom goes to her hospital bed, and then at whatever point in time after that, my brother was brought to my mom. Here's what my mom told me her reaction was when my brother was put into her arms. She says to the nurse, "This is not my baby. This is a thing. It's a monster. Bring me my baby. It has no face." So that was the other part of her wording. "This thing has no face. Bring me my baby." And my mom was a very intuitive person, but without any mindset or paradigm or framework for for harnessing her intuitive gifts. So she didn't know, in my opinion, that she was doing an intuitive read of my brother. My brother hadn't come in. He was physically born, but his spirit hadn't come into his body yet.
Oh.
And, of course, what did they do with mothers who had that kind of reaction back in the 1950s?
Yeah.
Oh, this woman is having postpartum psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. She did not have postpartum psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
She did a read on him without knowing that. And the reason I know that is because my brother turned out to be a childhood autistic.
Wow. Oh
Well,
God.
my mom and I were over-bonded in the first 3 years of my life. The way my mom put it to me was that when, after I had become an adult, was that when I was born, her marriage to my father, my parents' marriage, was in such dismal shape, was so painful to her, and divorce was not an option in her culture, that her only option was to lose herself and her child. And so she said to me, David, when you were born, and this was an apology she was giving me at this point in time that she told me about this when I was in my late teens or early 20s. She said to me, when you were born, the role I created for you was that you were going to be my everything. You were going to be my friend, my student, my teacher, you were going to be my lover in every way except sexual. And so when Mom had this postpartum experience, when she had this intuitive read of my brother, I registered that something was horribly wrong. And I didn't want any part in being the savior, because it ended up turning out, when I was 7 years old and my brother was 3, that it fell on me to help him begin to shift out of his childhood autism. And that burden was placed on me by a psychiatrist that my parents had seen with my brother in order to try to figure out how to help him. And when the psychiatrist told my parents what they needed to do in order to really find out how far my brother was going to be able to come in this life, and he's come magnificently in this life. I mean, he's still on the autistic spectrum, but he's functional. He makes a living. He lives on his own. I mean, he's a professional musician. He's wonderful. But at that time, the psychiatrist said to my parents what they needed to do in order to find out how far my brother could go, and both of them were out to lunch. They couldn't bring themselves to do what Dr. Kleinberger, the psychiatrist, was telling them they needed to do. And this was in a meeting that Dr. Kleinberger called among my mother, my father, and me, with my brother out in the playroom. And when it was clear that neither of my parents were going to be able to step up to the plate to do what Dr. Kleinberger was recommending that they do, she bore straight into my soul with her eyes and made it very clear to me in that moment that, sorry, Davy, it's up to you.
Oh, wow.
And so I did what was needed, and that was when my brother began to turn around. But this kind of being the adult at age 7, being the adult at age 3, being the adult as soon as I was born, was too much for me. So at age 3, I created an exploded appendix. So my father goes to the hospital ultimately to bring my mother and my brother home. It was 3 days, I think, after Ben was born. I think that was the time frame at that time. So he leaves me with some well-intended relatives who lived close by where we lived at that time. And these were good-hearted people, but they had no common sense at all. And so while I'm with them, I start to not simply cry, but to moan. And because I'm in deep physical pain. And they simply slough it off as, oh, he's whining because he misses his parents.
Oh, wow.
even though that's not how I rolled as a baby.
Right.
That wasn't my nature.
Right.
And that was perfect because they were going to be my saviors. I was going to be dead by the time Dad and Mom got back to pick me up.
Mm.
And I'm still alive. My parents get there. My mom takes one look at me, and I'm white as a ghost.
Oh.
Mom says to Dad, Alex, we're going right back to the hospital right now. So they take me to the emergency room, and the pediatrician on call sits with me and tries to do a differential diagnosis. He's really clear that this is either appendicitis or peritonitis. And if it's appendicitis, it's at night now. He's gonna do the appendectomy on me in the morning during usual operating hours. And if it's peritonitis, he's gonna have to do an emergency appendectomy right then and there.
Mm.
So he's trying to figure out which it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says to me, and I remember this so well, he says to me, Davey, I need you to do something. It may be really hard for you, but I need you to try. I want you to run down the hall and back to me again.
Hmm.
And what his medical training taught him was that if I was able to do that, I had appendicitis, not peritonitis.
Right.
And if I wasn't able to do that, I had peritonitis.
Mm.
So I am determined to get out of this place. And I managed to run down the hall and back to him again.
Oh, my God.
He used his he used his intuition over his training, his clinical judgment over his training. And he decided that I had peritonitis anyway, even though I passed that test. He went in immediately, did an emergency appendectomy, told my parents afterwards that he had done the right thing because my peritonitis was so acute that I was within a couple of hours of death when he went in. I would have been dead in the morning.
Oh, my gosh.
I did not know that I had never forgiven this wonderful physician for saving my life until 16 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yep.
16 years ago, in 2002 or early 2003, somewhere in there, was when I finally realized I had never forgiven him for saving my life.
Oh, this is the stuff that I love. And, you know, your story's not that far from mine. I mean, we can go on for days. But this whole thing, so you're saying you wanted to go. You're like, I'm out of here, so I'm going to trick them. And, yeah. And so that the appendicitis would kill me, and then you're out. And then, unfortunately, divine intervention, the doctor with the keen intuition, saves your life. And then, but you're carrying all of this crap with you, and that's like just 16 years ago. And
well, it wasn't until 1988 that a healer that I was working with at that time said to me, you know, it's time for you to get over this lie that you're here on earth as punishment. And I was in such a state of rightness addiction as of 1988 that this was not an opinion, this was reality, this was truth. And in absolutely perfect alignment with what is taught about in terms of what it only takes a little willingness to create a shift. That's talked about in A Course in Miracles, for example. The best I could muster up initially back in 1988 was, and this was exactly the words, I'm willing to consider the possibility that maybe I'm wrong.
Welcome to this morning's conversation, working through stuff within myself. Wow.
But that little amount of willingness was enough to crack the door open and help me finally set out on a course to shed my programming, my belief, my lie that had run my life so much until that point that I was here as punishment. So this is all about the first of these four secret pillars of a money sabotage mindset. This is reversed sourcing. This is a reversed set of beliefs around money and wealth that I had to clear away my version of. So that's another example of reverse sourcing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is perfect. And wow, and I'm so in alignment with being punished. I didn't say I wanted to, it was a punishment. Well, I kind of did. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I did. I'm like, I do not want to be here. Are you out of your mind? But I came out screaming bloody murder. I cried every day. My mom said I cried at the same time every day. She'd hand me off to, and I was just an infant. She'd hand me off to my dad the moment he came home from work, and she'd leave. She said, I couldn't handle your crying, and I didn't want to eat. But at some level, I also knew, I'm like, are you freaking out of your minds? There is no way I'm staying here, nor did I ever want to be here. And then I remember as a kid, I would say to my parents, I never asked to be born. I was so angry. Complete opposite. I was not a happy child. I was very depressed and angry. Like, damn you. How dare you put me on this little blue-green marble with all these idiots. Are you crazy? And there I am. Bam.
So you and I adopted opposite tactics for dealing with similar scripts. You adopted the angry script, and I adopted the good boy, compliant. I'll make it up to everybody for being punished. I'll redeem myself.
Hence, you and I are here, right? Because it's opposite personalities that complement each other. So, ta-da! Same fundamental scripts. Interesting. So let's talk about then number 2, the second pillar, entitlement scripts.
Right.
Wow.
So this is a really hard one for those of us, especially those of us who are givers. We're all about doing good in the world and having positive impact. It's real hard for people like us to even get our minds around the notion that we carry anything in the way of entitlement scripting, and that was certainly true for me. Well, what I finally uncovered very recently, actually, in just months before we're doing this podcast, I finally uncovered an entitlement script of mine, which I'll give you the generic version, and then I'll fill it in with my particular specifics.
Okay.
The generic version of the entitlement script is blank should be enough to get me money. And my fill in the blank was my good intentions, my integrity, my character, my talents, my skills. Those things by themselves should be enough to get me money.
Yes.
And what I was doing was I was giving myself a pass card. I was saying I'm entitled to not have to do marketing and sales and all of the other things that are necessary for converting portions of my wealth into money. That I'm entitled to be exempt from those other things because I am such a well-intended person. I have so much integrity. I have so much character. I'm so talented. I'm so brilliant. I'm so useful. That should be enough.
Yeah. Dr. David, get out of my head. Oh my God.
That's an entitlement script. That is an entitlement script about money.
I just said that yesterday. Exactly the same. Like, I show, like the martyr, I show up and teach these girls at the addiction center, hardcore drug addicts, track marks in their thighs. And man, I shouldn't have to do all the other crap to make money. Right?
Yep.
Exactly. Entitlement script.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And when we don't know we're carrying entitlement scripts, or we know we're carrying them and we believe them, this is going to sabotage our capacity to monetize our wealth.
Bingo. All right. So then, how do we get rid of them?
Well, the formula is right out of fairy tales. So the fairy tales where the storyline involves a spell being cast, the wisdom of those kinds of stories teaches us that the only way to emerge from a spell is to follow 3 steps in this order. The first step is we have to recognize that we're under a spell.
Good.
The second step is that we have to understand the anatomy of the spell clearly enough so that we are able to inoculate ourselves from being manipulated by it when we hear those kinds of messages, so that we don't believe those messages lock, stock, and barrel anymore. Mm-hmm. And the third part of emerging from a spell is that we have to have an alternative vision that is far more compelling to us than what the spell says. So the way that I help people get free from their spells is, first of all, to help them expose the spell to themselves so that they see the spell that they've been under, and to then understand its anatomy well enough to recognize it when it's in action. Mm-hmm. Then what I do is energy psychology interventions. Tapping is what that's often called, but tapping or emotional freedom techniques is only one member of a very large family of methods that are similar to EFT, collectively called energy psychology. So EFT is a member of the family of energy psychology methods. So I use something in energy psychology that they call treating psychological reversals, treating reversed beliefs, basically. And to clear energetically the energetic imprint that is attached to a backwards belief, a belief that is reversed from the belief that we would want ourselves to have.
Beautiful.
And then the third part of the emergence from the spell is my entire framework for money shadow freedom, because what it provides through these three essential big picture elements, the money myth busting, waking up from the money spell, and the money shadow programming, getting free, and then the third part that we're going to get to, which is on monetization mastery. When we have that full roadmap, we do have something that's far more compelling than our money scripts were.
Yes, and I do believe that we do have to directly target this relationship with money, to and with money. As opposed to kind of saying, oh no, like the blanket, no, I got this handled, that money's a thing. It's not a thing and it is a thing, that we must actually dance with it directly, so to speak. Yes.
Well, let's dispel the I've got this handled myth
once
and for all now.
Yeah, please.
and not just limited to money, but in general. People who think, I've done that. I've dealt with those issues. I'm over that. I'm finished. Now I'm able to just simply live in a fully actualized state. Those kinds of scripts. There was an author from a number of decades ago who I really loved. He wrote, his most famous book was Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And one of his other books was a book called Illusions. Richard Bach was his name. And, well, I shouldn't say was. He may still be alive, but I haven't seen any books from him in a long time. Anyway, his book Illusions, there's a line from it that's directly relevant to what we're talking about right now. And the line is this: here's a test to find out if your growth, if your development here on Earth is finished. If you're still here, it's not.
Dang! Crap! That hardcore reality that I wake up to every day is exactly right. And I still go, drats! Foiled again! Oy.
So this notion of done is a lie.
Thank you. Yeah, so when, I want to say that to myself, and I know the real answer, but when I hear it from other people, I just go, okay, yeah. And then thank you for that reassurance, because then I can just hear your voice in my head. Instead of my voice going, oh, please, go, oh, yay, I'm not the only one. that knows this and believes it. So thank you for that. So these entitlement scripts are so elusive. You know, this whole martyr thing that I speak of, I call it almost justifiable. Almost justifiable. And yet it's very devious, these entitlement scripts.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we definitely have to go and recognize them and be willing to admit that they're even there. That's yet another issue, is admitting to this sense of entitlement.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And this is why this is the kind. Shadow work is not work that we can do entirely by ourselves, because if we could, then it wouldn't be shadow. Shadow is what we don't see.
Right.
So, you know, if our best thinking got us into the mess we're in, then trying to rely on our best thinking to get out of it is a delusion.
Exactly. Thank you. Oh, Dr. David, thank you. I don't even know what else to say. It's like, thank you. I'm not the only one, you know, like I think I'm crazy because I feel like the only one saying these things, and then to hear it from you, music to my ears. Music to my ears.
I'm glad. You know, there's an old saying about paranoia. Just because you're paranoid doesn't necessarily mean that people aren't out to get you. So.
Oh, I love all your little funny tidbits. I don't know what else to call them, but I love them. They're so great. Okay, so now, you know, I'm going to just say it this way, is we have to be willing to dig deep and then look for those entitlement scripts and own up to them. And we
can't do it by ourselves.
And thank you. Amen. And can I get an amen up in here? Okay. No. Hallelujah. Okay. Break out the gospel choir right now, because that is it. We cannot do it alone. Thank you. And, you know, I did try. I thought, I know this. I've read every book. I've tried the therapy. I've done this. What else could I do? But I didn't even know, because I couldn't even see it and I didn't even know to look for it, that's exactly right. I had just given up, and I was so resigned and cynical that I said, I just want to be alone because I can't see getting help for this. And then admitting I need help, and then is the help even going to work? And so we get caught in that whole trap.
Yes.
And again, we cannot do this alone. And I always say is because there's one glitch in the system. We're with ourselves. So it takes another human, you know, because then there are people, you know, I'm a avid animal rescuer and adopter, and I have lots of animals. You know, people will say, well, I got my animals. No, has to be a human, you know, to help. So let's make that crystal clear. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Yes.
A couple of quips about that.
Yes.
The first is, we have to do it for ourselves, but we can't do it by ourselves.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
The second is, God heals, you work, I help.
Love that.
That to me should be the credo of all helping professionals. It is spirit that does the transformation. Mm-hmm. It is the client that is responsible for doing the work that enables that gift from source, those gifts from source to be utilized. And the helping professional is a midwife, a catalyst, a helper.
Yes. It's like the leg upper, you know, in the racehorse industry, you know, the leg up. Of course, I'm an equestrian. So, yeah, I love that. Yep. You know,
I
we're just
grew
there.
up on horses.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So it's just like, you know, can I get a leg up? And that's, yep. Mm-hmm. And again, wow. This is like so wonderful to hear. I can't even tell you. So now, that said, let's go to money risks.
Yes, the third of the four secret pillars of a money sabotage mindset. So money risks are pardon me, about uncovering the seemingly undesirable things that could happen from attaining the level of financial well-being that we seek.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say, well, no, I mean, you know, there are no risks. There are no risks if I amass a lot of money. In fact, having all of that money is going to eliminate risks.
Mm.
Well, nice try, no cigar.
Right.
And so, you know, there are risks around being ostracized by people who love us and don't have that kind of money. There are risks around being sucked on and vampired by people around us that don't have as much money. There are risks around being sued if we have money that people are jealous of. There are risks of being pestered by all kinds of causes wanting us to donate to their cause and their cause and their cause. Mm-hmm. The risks are quite significant.
Yes. It goes both ways. There are risks to spend it, risks in making it, but we're under this illusion, and quite delusional, really, to think that money's the answer and it will fix everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the other side of risks is prices. Prices will continue to pay if we don't create the level of financial well-being that aligns with our service mission and our ultimate life goals and things like that. So I uncovered not long ago a risk that really took my breath away around money. Mm-hmm. You're going to love this one.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm like, yeah. Whoa.
If I make all of the money that I am intending to make, if I create the level of financial well-being that I really seek, I will be too respected.
Okay, go ahead. You'll be too respected.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if people respect me too much, they're going to put me up on a pedestal, and then they're going to shoot me off of it. They are going to issue to me ceaseless demands for my time and my energy and my wisdom and my expertise, and expect me to provide those things because I have the financial wherewithal to do all of that. I don't want people respecting me too much. That's too much of a burden. That's what the risks script of mine was telling me at the more subtle levels of it that I uncovered recently.
Oh, wow. You know, I do love that. And I got to share mine that I just uncovered to a deeper level quite recently as well. And it seems so dumb and absurd, yet so fundamental, is that I actually said, oh my gosh, and this is a friend of mine that I've coached and trained, and then so I kind of talk it out and then get the answers through him. But I actually said, oh my gosh, if I actually have the last piece to my puzzle is this money, the money factor. But oh my gosh, if I have all that money, then I'm actually going to be happy. Finally. Because it's not that the money's going to make me happy. I'm happy now, which is everything that I've been working for, because my script and myth is money equals unhappiness. God forbid I have the next level of money and I'm happy now and happy then. That would obliterate all my scripts, my disempowering, limiting beliefs and scripts about happiness, and that there's just no way. And then what do I do? So here's, to be happy, that sounds so dumb at face value, but for someone coming from such depression and unhappiness and pain and trauma, I can't afford to be happy because I won't know what to do with myself. And then I'll have nothing to be a martyr over. I'll have nothing to complain about. I'll have nothing to keep me in self-sabotage and the self-fulfilling prophecy of unhappiness.
You got it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And you're saying for you, it's again making all these connections and keep digging deep. You said this is quite recent that you came up with this one.
That's right. That's right. It took my breath away. It was like, oh, really? Oh, my gosh. Wow. That's there? Let me clear this baby out of my system. Holy cow.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh. Okay, that's why I love this stuff so much. Okay, so there it is. And now, number 4, spiritual reciprocity blocking.
Mm-hmm. Well,
whew.
That's a mouthful of a phrase, of course.
Yes, it is.
So let me translate it into English.
Okay.
So, arguably more powerful than the law of attraction is the law of reciprocity.
Ooh.
And what the law of reciprocity is when someone gives, not as a manipulation, not giving to get, but giving to give, it activates in the receiver of the giving, unless that receiver is a sociopath. I mean, forget it if they're really...
Yeah.
But those aren't the people listening to your podcast, so we're not worried about those. Other than those people,
Yeah.
when someone gives to give, the recipient can't help but want to reciprocate, want to give back in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural law.
Yeah.
Well, those of us who are all about having positive impact in the world, those of us who are mainly animated by the desire to do good in this world, we are compulsive, addicted givers.
Yes.
And the thing that those of us who are locked in that script don't know until we start waking up from the spell, and I include myself in those who had not known this until I started waking up from the spell in me, is that as overgiving as I was, that's how under-receiving I was. And so what I didn't know until someone dear to me hit me between the eyes with this was that I was interfering with Source. I was interfering with love, circling and recycling love. I was getting in the way of love completing its love circuit, because for the love circuit to be completed, giving is responded to with reciprocity. It's giving is received and the receiver gives, and the giving and the receiving and all of that. And that I was so arrogant that I was better than Source. I could just give and then deprive Source of reciprocating, of responding to my giving through other people. So the spiritual reciprocity blocking is where I was an addicted giver and a phobic receiver. I was blocked around receiving at the level that I was giving.
Okay.
So I was blocking the law of reciprocity from working, and I was thereby blocking Source from loving Source. I was blocking the cycle of love, which includes cycling love through converting portions of my wealth into money. So I give portions of my wealth, and that those portions of my wealth come back to me in the form of money if that's what I've allocated those portions of my wealth for. So that is spiritual reciprocity blocking. And when we're blocking the receiving, when it's all about giving and not about allowing the law of reciprocity to flow through us as a participant in that, we will give and give and give and give and never have anything to show for it.
Yes. We'll give and give and give and never have anything to show for it. Is that what I heard correctly?
That's what you heard.
Yeah. And well, that's been me. give, give, give. In other words, the giving, I've got to make a difference in the world. I've got to have a purpose. I've got to help more people. I can't let anyone go down the same road that my deceased sister did and go down the road that I've gone down. And I got to do this, give, give, give. And then this is me. Same thing. And then I say, so God forbid I actually receive anything. Once again, that would interrupt my delusions of being worthy of receiving. And so then, I would like for you to address it from your point of view, in that you were a phobic receiver because why?
Well, because I was here as punishment.
Right. You had to instill that. So God forbid you receive, because then that would go against punishment. That would actually be rewarding and fulfilling. Is that
exactly?
Yeah. Okay. So God forbid I receive, because then I'll be happy, and then I have to admit that it's not so bad here on the little blue green marble.
That's exactly right. Now let's thicken the plot even further.
Okay.
If I'm an addicted giver,
yeah.
The people who are already spiritually developed enough along the receiving end of that equation to be very, very happy to reciprocate with giving. If I'm an addicted giver and a phobic receiver, I am going to repel people who are wonderful reciprocators, because they're going to get really frustrated that they can't complete the cycle of love by loving me back, which means that what I will mostly attract as a compulsive giver and a phobic receiver is narcissists.
Oh!
People who want to suck on me. I'll attract vampires who want me to give because they're running deep, deep entitlement scripts so that they can receive without feeling guilty about not reciprocating, because I'm repelling the reciprocation so they can feel just fine not reciprocating with me.
Exactly. Instilling into the wheel of insanity. Doing the same thing, expecting different results. And then it goes both ways. There are compulsive, addictive receivers and takers, right? And phobic givers.
Yep.
But let's not talk about my dating life. No, and the men in my life. Ha ha. Just kidding. Am I kidding? Right? Yeah. Because they call that, I'm just thinking of the whole Peter Pan syndrome, but this whole, it goes with both, all humans, that it goes both ways. Is that you, addictive giver, compulsive giver, phobic receiver. I fall into that as well, no question. Although, early on, I was a desperate, needing to receive because I was so empty. Another story for another day, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I see that I've come full circle, but this whole receiving issue is a problem. And just to reiterate, so then you put yourself right in alignment with the vampires and the narcissists, and that feeds right back into your need to be punished and your belief that you're here to be punished. And there it is all over again. Okay, so that said, we have a few more minutes here. I mean, like I said, I love this. I could go on for days. So this balance, so now we have to go. So what do we do? How do you then take on receiving more?
By really challenging the spiritual arrogance that is at the root of the refusal to receive.
Pam. All right, arrogance. Yeah, the spiritual arrogance of, say that again?
That is at the root of the refusal to receive.
At the root of the refusal to receive. Bam.
Yep.
Okay. So that said, ta-da, part 2 of a 3-part series on evolving your money relationship, money shadow programming, getting free. Okay, this is wonderful. You have exactly 45 seconds to sum it up as in completion for today.
Okay, 25 seconds to sum it up.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is that there is a way out of the binds that you might be in, that our listeners might be in around money.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're willing to have the courage to look at what's in shadow, to discover what's in shadow in us that's undermining our ability to live our money goals at the level of our intentions and our hopes and our desires, the key is looking fearlessly at our reverse sourcing, our entitlement scripts, our money risks, and our spiritual reciprocity blocking.
Woo! Okay, amen. And yeah, bingo. That's all we need to say there. Part 3 next week. So to reach you, Dr. Gruder, Grud for David, ER.com, drgruder.com. No periods in there, just the .com. To reach you, KarenLovely.com, KarenLovely at Gmail. Get in contact with us. We'd love to hear from you, feedback. Thank you all for listening. David, magnificent as always, and spot on. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate you, and I know that you have your next call, so thank you. I look forward to next week, and woo! Here's to evolving your money relationship, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, and good night. Thank you, David. You're incredible.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.